You are listening to Red Team Radio.
Welcome back to our chat with Justin Wynn. We're diving straight back in. If you missed our first part, don't worry. Just click the link at the top of the video to catch up.
And I think that's why whenever we're working on a project, I like asking the clients, like, what do you want us? What is your goal for this project, right? Where do you need help directing funding?
Dude, that's so advanced though. The needs assessment, like, really, yeah. Are we trying to like sell this to the higher ups? Are we trying to expose things? What do you already know about your environment? But really talking through things is so important with the client like that, and very few people do that. Like measuring things up before you actually get down to business.
Then you can also shape your report, right? It's just like, yeah, there's been times where we found like 2 critical vulnerabilities, and we talked about them in a report. But this high vulnerability was like a real big action item that this client wanted. And though the severity is lower than the 2 criticals, we like explained it. We put a lot of time in the executive outbrief on that particular vulnerability so that team could get funding so that they could address not just that problem, but a problem that was like also tied to it that was just 3 medium vulnerabilities, right? But this one had to be fixed first before they could address these.
Man, I think that's so important. Like, I don't hear a lot of people in the industry talk about it. Maybe I'm just not tuned in or looking at the right sources, but nobody's really understanding that so many times you have very smart people on the client side. I think a lot of hackers come into an organization think, oh, the client has no idea what they're doing. That's why their security is terrible.
Yeah, no.
It's the politics at play, man. And being able to navigate the politics, like as much as like we as hackers, I think, hate that, you can go a lot further in your career and you can make a lot more meaningful progress and move the needle for security if you understand how to navigate the politics behind it.
And especially now when we have, like all these crazy layoffs, clients that are still hiring, they will remember that particular red teamer or that pen tester that really was able to help them out, right? And they're like, hey, I see that, NCC or Rapid7 or whoever is just, laid off 40% of their staff or something like that. And if you put, the, open to work tag down on your LinkedIn post, that I've seen where I have had friends who are working at these companies where they made a meaningful impact at another client and that client snapped them up.
Yeah.
Like just right after the layoff.
And thank God, that's the way it should be too, because then you have a talented person that you're acquiring in a team that's already familiar with your network. Just makes sense for a lot of reasons.
And it's not just that experience of like being with your network, but it has that capability of being able to demonstrate the impact that needs to be demonstrated to higher ups.
The competency and the soft skills side of things too. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's a huge importance thing. And I think those like that soft skill capability bleeds off into red teaming, right? Because it bleeds directly into social engineering. It bleeds into not being that person that just gets tripped up because a security guard comes up to you and you're just like, what are you doing? Right? You can translate that. And if you notice someone who is a higher up that's coming up to you and asking you questions, right? You can discuss things and talk your way out of things in a way that makes sense to them, right? If you're saying, oh, I'm the wire pooler, I'm pulling wire through the ceiling and you're dressed in a 3-piece suit. Like that's not going to be an excuse that's going to fly with that VP that's coming in. Right. Never have they met someone that was a wire puller that is in a 3-piece suit.
Things aren't meshing up there for sure. I mean, I think you get a lot more value of your career if you have recurring clients that you establish those relationships with, that you understand the perspective and where they're coming from, then maybe it leads to a job down the road. But really, I mean, in the short term, it's going to lead to better remediation of those vulnerabilities. And I think there probably is no greater gauntlet or challenge than doing this live, dynamic, on the fly on a red team. I mean, that is the ultimate demonstration of soft skills. And I think that's where trying to find a hacker who's capable of that, who can do physical, who knows virtual, because you're going to have, and like, a lot of other organizations split this up, the skill sets. One guy does entry, one guy does the persistent access, one guy handles the people, and you have your whole spotter team and the full support team. A lot of times this comes down to one person, like in our world, that needs to be able to coalesce and do all of this. And if you're able to do that, you're going to have a good career. You know how to do red team engagements, but you're going to be successful with your clients as well.
And on that, I think that's one of the things where like the public sector guys that are coming into the private sector, like they're niche, right? They're like PhDs. They don't actually have a PhD, but they're like a PhD in their niche, right? Yeah. So the physical entry guys.
Right, siloed.
Yeah, they're unbelievably great in physical entry. But then it's like you put them in front of the keyboard and they're just like, right, so I know how to do, I know how to open up my web browser.
Calculator.
And yeah. I can open up Notepad.
That's right. I can open up your calculator too.
Yeah, that's right. and I think that it really, that companies are trying now, especially now, are trying to look for more value out of their red teamers, right? So they're not just looking for that individual that is siloed in physical, right? They're looking for that individual who can do the physical and they can also do some of the pen testing. Now, do they need to be someone who's like dropping O days and finding great vulnerabilities all the time when it comes to, things that no one has ever seen? No. But you should be competent enough to where you break in that building, you need to break in that network as well.
Right.
And you need to establish a foothold, because then someone else who is more senior or someone that does specialize in this particular item that you're trying to do, you've already gave them the foothold, right? You've already gone through those initial steps, and then they can take it off from there. Or they can help you while you're on the project so you can continue to learn.
Right. I wrestled with that concept for a long time, early in the career and before this too, the difference between generalization and specialization and which is more beneficial. And it's both, and I hate to take the cop out of that, but like really specialize in something, whether that's physical security, but if you can't do anything else besides that, you're hosed. And if you're just so general that you can't dive deep into a topic, you're hosed. So it's going to take both, and you're never going to have a tester who's good at all the physical entry, good at client communications, dynamic, on the thinking, flying solutions, and then also can come up with ODAs too, right? So if you pick one of those, but then also stay abreast of the other, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I like to tell young folks entering into this field. They're like, oh, I want to do covert entry. I'm like, great. Like, focus on covert entry. Be an expert in covert entry. Be really good at breaking into networks as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially just because our industry is information security, right? Everything, compliance drivers, it all flows. So I get that question all the time. I mean, we're at Black Hat right now and had, our booth running, had 10 different people come up to me. Hey, physical security, love it. That's what I want to do. Same boat. I was there too. I realized I had the physical security skill set. I did urban exploration, like not where I am now. And I knew very little at the time, relatively speaking. But I saw the need. I understood that all of this was housed in information security, cybersecurity. And that's what I needed to learn first before I could go deeper down this field and actually employ this in practice on the job. I had to learn how to hack.
Right. Yeah. And that will also make you more, more of a candidate for something, because it's easier, especially for like a consultancy, to bill you out because, okay, you can hack. Great. We have more work for hacking than we do physical.
Yeah.
Right. And I have not met a consultancy, that is over $10 million yet per year, like revenue, right? Coalfire is much, much, much larger than that. Right. But that is just purely a physical place. Right. But you find those where they're both combination physical and digital.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you can play in both those games, right? And I've found also the more senior you get, unless you decide, to become a fancy director or something.
Don't do it. It's a trap. That's great. Coalfire.
Yeah. I love my job. No. That you have this item of sorry, now I'm thinking about this.
You know how it is.
I do. I'm thinking of some other people that might be watching this, right? And then be like, does he really like being a director?
I know. We're gonna have to air this after things come to an end, which is gonna be a lifetime.
That's right.
Coalfire.
Lifer for life. That's right.
I have been there 8 years. I got the track record.
I know.
I'm really making a good pitch here. I'm selling it.
Hey, I only made it 9 months.
Better than Drew Porter. You heard it here for it. No, jeez, man.
That's easy. That's easy to do.
No, it's a shame in the industry too, though, that we have to jump off, like to really advance your career and propel, and that's what all the CISOs do too. I mean, you work it for a year, you get popped, and you head somewhere else, and you get the new sign-on bonus and things like that. So there's merit to it too, but also merit, seeing things through at Coalfire. I feel like an archivist, all the stuff I've seen over the years. I don't know. I just also want to make the distinction, like being a consultant versus working at a singular company. That's my greatest advantage. Like, it soothes my ADHD to be able to see so many different environments and always be learning something new, and having that environment that you can work in versus you work for the same company. Not that it's always the same. There's plenty to tackle and manage there, but to see different configurations, how people approach their problems, and then how we can destroy those problems and get what we need out of it too is very exciting as a consultant.
Yeah, and on that working for a single company versus a consultancy, I've definitely seen where if you were like, I want to do, let's say, 80% physical and then 20% digital, working for a single company, there are cases, and they're like the high-end red teams for companies. So we're talking Fortune 25 now only. I'm sure there's some Fortune 100 in there, but Fortune 25 where they're like, yeah, you can have someone that's doing 80% physicals and 20% digital. But that is not a common position.
And even then, how many people do they have there? So let's say we're talking AWS and you have data centers around the world, and then does this make sense? You do need physical testing constantly year-round. And how many people do you need on that team, though, right? It's almost like being a train conductor. Like, there's only so many tracks that you have, so many trains, right? You can't have that many people doing it. So
on a 5-person red team, like one person will do that.
Right. So,
and this is for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, just to show you how small that scope is.
It's super rare, and that's the problem. You know, I wish I had a better solution for more people coming into this industry and saying, I want to do physical security. What's the best way? Find a company that does it already, try to hook in with them.
Yep.
But even then, for Coalfire, it's very rare the amount of engagements that we have throughout the year. Maybe one, because there aren't the compliance drivers necessarily behind it. You know, there are edge cases, and you have some components of that where it's dictated and mandatory. But generally speaking, all the money flows through virtual cybersecurity and those compliance drivers. And the physical security skill set and need is very rare until you get into companies like Red Team Alliance, where it is almost 100% of what you guys do. And even then, that's super rare. There's not, I don't know, the industry dynamics. So after this, once the cameras go off, I was going to pitch you, we need to go on some crime sprees and let the clients know this is a real threat, guys. You need to take us serious. We're holding all the companies hostage. Invest in your cybersecurity or physical security. Let's test it further.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely the part of like red teaming where you like do all this cool stuff. You make physical entry, you break into their network, you know, you take money out of the safe, and then you're like, oh, I have to give it back. Right.
It's the worst part of the job.
I know.
Besides reporting, but
but that's why they keep on hiring you back, because you do give it back.
Yeah, it's recurring
right?
business. Got the long con, as they say, so to speak. Yeah, correct.
We're gonna go in there, and they're gonna pay us every 2 weeks.
Idiots. Yeah, I'm with you.
Then we're gonna walk out 50 years from now.
Dude, it's so funny. So true.
I was dying when I saw that little skit. So
I really want to interview you, like, you know, just like there's questions like you have so much more to teach and like share about shit like you have. I would want to ask you these questions about your engagements, your favorite tool, all that shit, man. It's really good.
My answers are boring, you know. EDT.
That's how I feel. Yeah. What are your top 3?
My top 3 tools. My top 3 tools is some type of latch slipping device. So whether that be
it's very inclusive.
I like plastic cards, right?
Yeah.
So I don't like the metal ones, right?
What plastic do you prefer though? Because there's so many where you go over it and it just tears like vertically throughout it, right? Mm-hmm. So it shears apart. I'm sure you have like some Gucci made in China Batman plastic that he's using. What do you use?
So the Super Mecha Shims by Brockridge.
Those are they're solid.
Yep.
And varying sheets,
And that's the thing is like
thicknesses.
people leave them just like solid. No, if you look at mine, and I do go through them often, but I'm cutting designs in them so that I can get around certain things easier, right? Or like I'll make it look like a Sparrow's, you know, shove it tool, right? But it's just made out of plastic, so I can get it around that latch, and then I can pull it back on me.
And you still like the basic same, like whatever, the oval or curved, or there's a straight square? Or do you have anything like super innovative?
I make a mesa out of it.
And for Gary, who doesn't know what a mesa is.
So if you look up the Black Mesa logo or the Red Mesa logo, and you look at our R in the Red Mesa logo, right? Or if you look at the R here in the Red Team Alliance logo, this is a mesa. Right?
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I got you.
So it is that shape that you find in a lot of those tools.
Okay.
Right? But yeah, so that is going to be my number 1. Number 2 is going to be under the door tool. And number 3 is going to be, and this is going to be a combination because it's 2 tools that work into one, is going to be number 3 is going to be my camera, my cell phone camera, to be exact.
For seeing on the other side of a door, primarily?
No,
Like as a tool?
for
or
taking pictures of keys and then making those keys later.
Ah, okay. All right. Very fair.
Yeah.
If it was reporting, it wouldn't count. So,
Yeah.
fair.
So yeah, to be able to capture a picture of a key, right? And then I put like you have to have a known quantity there, right? So I carry around with me a dime, and I know how wide a dime is, right? So I put a picture of the key. Let's say I don't know the key. Let's say it's an oddball key that I've never seen before in my life, right? And I don't have a blank to measure things against. I will put a dime. And then what I'll be able to do is measure that dime in pixels, and then I will divide what the real measurement is, and then that will tell me my multiple that I need to do, so then it will give me the inches for each cut.
So I'm pretty surprised that that's number 3 for you. What's your methodology where you have access to a key in that sterile environment where you can introduce and take your proper picture that you need? This is after hours entry. You've gained access to this key. And then what are you using that for then later where you have to clone this to make it, so you can come back on site during the day is what it sounds like. What's your methodology or approach there? Why is that number 3? That's a pretty big deal. So
yeah, so
why that?
So it's because I can hand it off to someone else, and I don't have to be there to be making entry. I can be flying off to make entry into another building while that digital team is going in, dropping off the drop boxes.
Very important. Okay, all right. Well, that's why it doesn't make sense to me. Like that is not the same case. All right, fair.
Yeah, because it's not always like when we're working with red teams, it's not always that I can be on a project for that whole time. Sometimes they will have me go, and my salespeople hate this. The number one thing, they're like, why don't you just like be on the golf course and sell more shit, right? I'm just like, listen, I write your paycheck, so I'm gonna be the one hacking stuff.
Shh, buddy. When are you talking on the phone to other clients? Thanks.
Why aren't you selling more shit? But it's there are times where it's just like, okay, we have a week, because there are times where it's like we have a week and we have 2 facilities, right? I can't be at that first facility for, like, let's say I get in that first facility in a day and a half. Great. I'm taking and I make a key. I've decoded their master keying system, done all these items, and then I give that over to the team, the red team that's still there. Then I go over and I fly to another facility.
Damn. And it's solely a byproduct or a result of like how you guys are selling engagements, and you have a full ledger of business, which is got to be so unique for the industry. You guys are the only guys that have back-to-back physical engagements. You're not the only people out there, I'm sure, but I don't know any off the top of my head that have back-to-back like that. So
sometimes it's the same client, right? Sometimes they want us to look at 2 buildings in 2 different states, right? So I go in, get in, let that team start working on that digital stuff, because sometimes it's easier to be on site when you're doing the digital work anyway. Yeah, they can drop some drop boxes. Sometimes we're in an environment where we can't spin up a drop box that then can go outwards through even cellular, right? Like there's one client I'm thinking of right now where if we had like a Intel NUC or a Raspberry Pi that then had cellular out, they detect when you have a cellular signal, right, in this particular building.
Nice, hardcore.
So
cool.
They can't. So like, well, we don't have the Wi-Fi credentials, right? We don't have the proper certificates to join their wireless network. So that team has to be hacking on site during that time, while I'm also then going to be breaking into a building. So they can spend 2 days on site doing that, and I can spend more time working on another building. Because if I can get in that building in a day and a half, it's not a guaranteed level of success that I'm going to be able to get into the next building in a day and a half.
Okay,
right?
So you're passing off your persistent access. One,
Yep.
making sure you have established
Mhm.
persistent access, and then trading that off to your team.
Yep.
That specific client, like, do you have? Are there more like sideband or out of channel attacks that you could use? Like, if you just like send that over ham or something, would they detect that? Or they are like just so on top of their RF emissions, they know what comes in and out of their facility across the spectrum.
Anything from basically 9 kilohertz to 8 gigahertz they're monitoring.
All right.
Yeah. So using
Can I like blink the exfiltration out of that place?
Yeah. Actually using audio is one thing that we've done to like get past.
This is lower than the 9 kilohertz or megahertz.
Yeah. The 9 kilohertz, right?
Okay.
So you just send it into audio that is 5 kilohertz, right? Or 5 hertz, right? Or 500 hertz or something like that,
Yeah.
right? But But yeah, that's not every single client, right? That's like an extreme case.
No, it's probably
So
the only one. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. It's amazing if all security would be that way.
no, they have a twin. One of their competitors actually is also our client, and they have a similar type of deal. Now, of course, they're dealing with like real deal. They're developing products that are at the level of the national security stuff. So
It's so fun where like the theoretical becomes practical. Like that's actually in play for your clients, and like that's the stuff we have to defend against. Like where everything else, like I don't know how we touched on it earlier, but like security consultants being like too paranoid, where like you have to accept some level of risk. That's what it was. And you see so many security consultants who don't have social media. And not saying this is like, the pinnacle of life, but they have such a trade-off where they are so reclusive and they don't maybe get the same value out of life or share the same experience because they prioritize their security concerns over anything else where, you have to make some adjustments and accommodations. But to be in those environments where that's necessary is actually pretty exciting, not just from the theoretical, but the applied application of that.
Yeah, and it's fun because those are the clients, if they're taking that much care, like every finding, even if it's a medium finding or a low finding, like they look at it as like oh damn, like yeah, we need to address this. This is the first client I've had where we gave them a series of reports where we gave them like 9 low findings that then we were able to chain together for like one high finding to like then compromise, get some domain access and be able to like start moving through before we had to stop the project, that they were so excited to get like 9 low findings.
Heck yeah.
And I was just like, well, yeah, okay, you're excited because we chained it to a high. And like, no, we would have been excited if you didn't chain it into a high.
Just seeing different things that they weren't aware of,
right,
or you're uncovering different stones that
and
they
they're
haven't
just
looked
like,
at.
yeah, we didn't even, they're literally one of the things that one of the security engineers said to us is just like, now that I know about this low finding, there's other things because, we don't have all that time that they have on their environment. So they know they can make other connections that we can't.
Yeah,
they're like, that low finding, if you knew about these things, is actually would be much more of an impact than you realize. And it would have been more than a low finding. And
that's
I was just
cool.
like, yeah, that's awesome. But not every client is like that, right? There are some times where
it's
they're
the
like,
exception of the rule.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and then,
in my experience.
No, you are 1,000,000% correct, right? It's not like we have a plethora of clients that are, monitoring RF to that capability, monitoring, have ground-based radar everywhere, have leaky coax and all this stuff.
No, it's cool though that you get to engage in client and environments like that, because everything else is like, you can be like battle-hardened warriors, like SEAL Team 6, like prepared for anything, and then you never have the application or the use case for it. And so when you come across a client, even though we don't do that hardcore stuff, it's still cool to be able to like exercise and go through like the thought experiments. Like, here's what could happen. Here's how we defend against it. That cat and mouse game, and seeing that in play. Very rarely do we deal with clients like that. That's pretty cool.
And that's what I love about training as well. Is we have people that come to our trainings that that are all part of the special forces teams or are working for different agencies, and they're telling us the issues that they're running into. And we get to help them explore those capabilities and be able to help them, develop that exploit, be able to get them past that. And they don't always, call us back and be like, that worked, right? Now, if we don't get a call back, it usually means it worked. If we do get a call back, it means like, okay, that didn't work. What do we need to do next,
Nice.
right?
And the next week, Osama bin Laden's dead. Like, cool, man. Yeah, that's amazing.
I didn't say that.
Well,
We
didn't have to.
We didn't.
I got you. You can't see he's only winking on the right side for the cameras.
But this is my left.
Pay no attention.
But it is interesting to see all that, because it's like it's like a brain dump of problems that we don't run into that we get to help solve.
Yeah.
And when clients, going back to one point that you made a while ago, and it's so true, and it's actually something I'm very sick of in the industry, which is a consultancy is hired to tell the executives something that their team already knows.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's redundant. It's like, it shouldn't be necessary.
You can save your 50, 100, 300K that you're spending on this.
Right.
But you have intelligent people, and this is what I tell executives when I'm talking to executives, and I'm not trying to dress them down. I tell them like, hey, do you believe you're a good manager? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, do you believe you hire smart people? They're like, the best.
Setting up the trap.
And I'm like, why don't you listen to them?
Yep.
Right? And they're just like, well, and I was just like, do you hire good people? Are you a good manager? Are you a good character? Can you judge talent? Can you judge character? Are you good at that? And you have them say yes, 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 right? And then you drop that. Hey, so why aren't you listening to your
That's a
people?
really big takeaway for me. I mean, like box them in the corner without like it being like that confrontational or something, but just saying like,
Right.
yeah, you trust yourself. Yeah, you've already done this. Now listen to it.
Right.
I had one client where we did a physical engagement and it was stealing cars for like this quasi, more or less, car rental company, right? And then same deal. They're like, once in a while, we have cars that get stolen, and how do we try to prevent this? And we had all the technical controls in the world, and the OBD sensor and GPS trackers, and how do we lock that and everything else, and how we're going to detect and respond to all this, right? Going through all the scenarios. And at the end of the day, we did this. We stole our own car, which was amazing for an engagement. I don't think you've stolen your own car. It
I have
probably
not.
has.
I have not. No,
That's actually really
I can tell you,
surprised. 'Cause, like you built your own fucking war vehicle, so you did pretty good on that. I haven't done that. So we get it. We steal this car, which is like truly a checkbox, right? You want to like rob a casino, steal a car, and like I don't know, I want to steal a rocket to space or like at least like
that'd be
on board.
awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who worked at SpaceX, Marcello. Never hooked it up.
Hey, he used to work at Coalfire.
Yeah, no, truly.
Yeah.
All the best people in the industry had a stint in coal fire and be like, we need to do something else.
Yeah.
It's good. Then no, coal fire is great. So come here and start your career.
I mean, in all actuality, Coalfire does offer unique capabilities that I think other consultancies don't offer.
Truly. And
your investment into growth of your consultants is another thing. I was very impressive with Coalfire when I was there. Like the flexibility that Coalfire gives their consultants when it comes to personal growth, like is something that I find truly actually inspiring, because I wish other consultancies looked like that. The consultancy I worked for before Coalfire, training budget, what the fuck is that? Right?
Yeah.
Like and the commitment, I think, now that you're a director, right? But other directors that were there before you were a director, and stuff, the commitment that they had to their staff for personal development, I think is unlike any other consultancy that I've seen, which is why I think Coalfire has been able to deliver unique capabilities to clients, like, stealing your own car or something like that, right?
I can completely agree with that. And I think it changes over time, the dynamics of the industry. Obviously, things are more constrained now than they have been in recent years.
Right.
So the industry changes a little bit, or the dynamics behind it. Overall, I mean, I think the variety of the work that we have and what we're willing to invest in, it does go a lot further. And I will say I have a very limited insight, because I've only ever worked at Coalfire. It's my only job in the industry, so I understand that I have a limited viewpoint there. And Coalfire is really good about some of those things. So that being said, earning my paycheck and making sure I don't get fired. Going back to a company who did things like kind of interesting. They had cars that would get stolen once in a while, one way or another, and they wanted to implement all these technical controls. We did our red team. We stole the car. We showed that it was possible, and like in a very trivial manner. Hey, we're here from the management company. Here's our paperwork. Can we have a car? We need to just go perform safety checks. We got away with it. Afterwards, we did we transitioned. It was a hybrid engagement, so we did the red team, stole the car, and afterwards we came on site, talked with their people, and did the whitelist assessment, where we came through and checked the building and then talked to their people. And what they told us, what the head manager at the office said was, every single time that a car has been stolen from our branch, I knew it was going to happen. I saw it happening. I felt that bad feeling that you get, almost like every victim of violence had a bad feeling. Those bells were going off, and that's what we kind of relayed. So the same deal, going up to the CEO who's on all the calls, like in PJs and like eating cereal, and like, wow, this guy's like just constantly busy. We said, hey, ma'am, like, so you have all these technical controls really thought out. However, have you thought about the human element, like relying and empowering your employees to spot this and say, nope, shut it down. We're not comfortable with this. We're not renting out the car to you. And I think they went on to do it and actually made a very significant impact to their security approach by relying on the human element. And that's something that's often overlooked in the industry. I think.
Definitely. Everyone, we always, and I think as consultants, sometimes we get tunnel vision of like, oh, there's technical controls that could be put into place, right? But then
It's always our solution, right?
we undervalue the human aspect of it sometimes.
For sure.
And I think I've definitely done that before in the past, where it's just like, these are your technical controls. You can't rely on the human element. But I think there are unique cases, especially like the one that you just brought up, where relying on the human element is going to be one of the better methods, right? Because it's hard to determine. Technology does not have that gut feeling of like something bad is about to
Oh,
happen.
AI and ML, it's the future.
Oh, yes.
If or statements, that'll
yeah.
save us.
Have you been looking at my code recently? 1,500 lines of if else, it's elf. Yeah, to wrap this up, if you were, to talk to someone young in the industry or looking to join the industry, what advice would you give them that would help them lead to a role in like red teaming, or lead them to be able to demand that capability of like, I want to focus on these areas? What would you tell them?
So I don't mean to be pedantic, but going into what's your definition of red team,
Yep.
inclusive of physical security, or just, really proactive, full attack surface testing type
Yeah,
deal?
I mean,
talking,
inclusive of the three main domains: physical, social, and digital. Right?
sure. There's that great quote by Pablo Picasso. You have to know the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist, right? And so I think blue team experience goes so far for that, like really understanding the problem. The more that you understand
Yeah.
your subject matter, the more you're able to circumvent it, whether or not you know all the red tape and all the rules and then the bypass for it, right? So understanding what we're trying to accomplish, having that end vision in sight, and then being able to get there through a multiplication of means, right? So you need to be able to go left, right, down the middle. So biggest advice for people trying to break into it. That's tough, man. I mean, it takes years. It's not a single point in time. It's not, hey, you're new, you're outside the industry, this is what you need to study. Start anywhere. Start with what you're passionate about. Learn that to a T. I mean, you can silo and specialize in that, but then, like we were talking about, branch out and generalize from there. Get as much experience from the blue team as you can the red team, to anything in between. And once you coalesce everything in all domains, I think that's where the magic starts happening. But it doesn't happen by having one perspective, by one vision, by one approach to tackling that problem. You really do have to branch out, and that's where you rely on your network. I mean, it's your whole life, your whole career, the people that you know, going out to conventions, being involved in the industry, sitting at not just the village you're interested in, the lockpick village, go to the RF village, go to the social engineering village, coalesce everything, make contacts over there, and then continuously you'll be learning. And just like, I'll call up people from your team and say, hey, I'm on this engagement. I've never seen this before. What do you guys think? How would you tackle this problem? And then even more so in the professional career development aspect and managing your clients and understanding how to talk to the C-suite and make meaningful impact, it takes everything. So at first, don't try to learn everything. Silo and what comes naturally to you. Get that down really well, because I think you make a lot more experience and mileage out of that. If you're passionate about it, you can go a lot further, a lot quicker. And then beyond that, start coalescing everything else from things that maybe you hate, honestly, and you'll learn more from that. And it teaches you, and then you're able to teach your clients a little bit better from that. So, sorry, it feels like a cop-out of an answer. I don't have a great solution to it, I think, but it's important to be aware and abreast of everything, because that's what your client needs. It's not just your focused solution to this problem. It's everything else the entire world's going to throw at them, and that's what we're trying to defend against.
I don't think it's cop-out. I think it's a very realistic answer.
Cool.
On what that looks like.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Now, is there any question that you want to ask me before we wrap this up officially?
Not really. I was wondering what this lock has been doing here the whole time. I thought there was a component where we had to hit that at some point, and I don't really want. That's fine if we don't have to.
I was waiting for you to open it while we are just discussing and talking.
Oh, I've just been fidgeting with this, the tool.
I know. Are you ready to open it right now? Let's do it right now.
I'm not, but I can try. But really, like a question that I would have for you, man, dude, this is totally a wasted silver bullet. Yeah, you know things. Oh, There's so many incriminating things I want to ask though. Like, if you had like any target, like if you were gonna do this for real, like what would you hit? What would be your ultimate heist? Because I think we all do this. We have a center or like a lobe of our brain dedicated purely to heist. Like, what would be your biggest impact? I mean, how would you change the world? Whether you want to do it for financial gain or just like to prove a point. I mean, what do you think about? Like, what's interesting to you? Is there a certain client or environment that you'd like to operate in, or something that you haven't been involved in, but like something that you just know is hanging out there, low hanging fruit that nobody's touched? Is there anything like that you have?
Yeah. Oh man, low hanging, like something that someone hasn't touched.
I mean,
That's
ultimate heist or something that's easy or something that, you could finesse it in such a way, even if it's super difficult, that you can go and pull out this golden apple that, changes the course of history. Is anything like that? Because, I mean, people can break into the Louvre, and that's happened like in our network, hey, is there a vulnerability for people like proactively trying to test and secure it? And then
yeah.
turns out just through the network, we know somebody that knows a vulnerability at the Louvre.
Yeah.
You have anything like that you come across in your personal or professional life?
Yeah. So the ultimate heist, it would be, and we've worked on projects similar to this where you combine two of my passions, right? So, RF, there you go.
It's pretty simple, really, when you practice for 3 hours before the camera. It's like not a big deal.
But now you got to keep it.
Nope.
So,
and the tool.
There you
No,
go.
sorry, you can have that. I'm pretty sure I broke the tool. You can have that back. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fix that. We'll just charge you. I won't invoice you now. Yeah, being able to combine attacks from the world of RF and physical together. So, companies that have like ground-based radar to detect movement, man. So those ground-based radar units are pretty cool. But
So, like we're talking, you just somersault and roll because they don't detect somebody walking behind. I've seen that before.
yeah, no, they'll detect you like rolling. They'll detect you crawling. They'll detect you doing this stuff. But you know what they won't detect? You freaking attacking them through like electronic warfare. So sending back a response of that it's not expecting, or not just through like jamming or something like that, like crafting packets or response beacons that it's looking for, that then you can just move an entire vehicle through a field, which is something that we've done before, and more things that are leveraging the combination of RF and physical security is really what gets me excited, because it's like, hey, like RF and signals intelligence and electronic warfare, that is like my that's what I was doing for a long time. That was my foundation, right? Building those systems that then other people were using downrange, and then being able to combine that with breaking into a facility. It shows that like, the clients, they don't think like, oh yeah, this system that we bought, it's radar. Radar can be jammed. Radar can be manipulated, right? The signature, the horizontal plane, or however they describe it in the military, of the signature of an object can be manipulated by different shapes or by different paints or other items applied to the vehicle, and they then realize like, oh yeah, this is not a end all be all solution. There are people who are combining digital and physical attacks together to then be able to destroy or dismantle my system that I thought was going to be able to detect a squirrel from running across a field.
So what you're saying is that we're going to be able to have clown cars that attack military bases shaped like a shoe because it's so outside the profile of what we were looking for that it just circumvents all the security.
That's right. Yeah,
That's fascinating. You guys heard it here first. This is Red Team Alliance. Thank you all for having us on your show. This is Drew Porter, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
I really want to see that as the outro. Come on,
it's going to be in there. Don't worry.
This is why I never get invited back.
Oh, no, you're going to get invited back.
Hell
Don't
yeah.
worry. Thank you, Justin, for being on the podcast. You opened up the lock, so you get to keep it. And to end this off, where can people follow you on social media or find you on the internet?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Before I delete the accounts, I am on linkedin.com/in/redteam. Kind of got in early on that one, so that helps. Twitter, Red Team Wins. Instagram, Red Team Wins. WYNNS. That's probably all I got. I mean, gmail.com too, which honestly, nobody ever takes me up on that as much as I want. I'm like, guys, you had no idea. You vastly underestimate my amount of free time. And like, I'm so happy to help out. Like, so I came from nothing and my hacker family brought me up and I'm so willing to return that favor. So I really appreciate it anytime anybody hits me up, and anybody that has in the past, they're super respectful about it and we're able to help make changes and then see them grow in their career and industry. And it's really, really cool to see. So I'll throw that out there. Anybody that sees this and wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to converse and talk about anything that we can help do to get you further in the industry and career.
Perfect. Thank you again for being on Red Team Radio.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Red Team Radio. Don't forget to like this episode, hit subscribe, and follow for more. Craving extra Red Team Radio exclusives? Dive deeper at redteamradio.net and click support for early episode releases and members-only content. Join us twice a month as we continue to unveil the unseen in the Red Team Chronicles. Remain vigilant and do not cease to be curious.